On this episode of the John1911 Podcast, we give you a range update. Having to look out for Indian Mounds. Now we can disclose the Ukraine deal and burritos falling from the sky. Good morning, everybody. This is Marky and Freeze, and this is episode 76 of the John1911 Podcast. How was your night, Freeze?
Suck balls.
That took about 15 seconds until you registered a complaint.
Yeah, well, you know, whatever.
It's been a long time.
And I tell you what, we are so behind on the podcast schedule.
But
we've been busy.
Yeah, there's been a lot going on. So, but you've got work stuff going on. I've got some stuff going on over here. Then I'm dealing with the range, and I don't know if I told you, but we, I got the crew in, and we cut. I mean, I haven't measured it like by distance, but we have a fair amount of trails cut through the new range. So we've got, I guess we're going to call the main shooting position the briar patch or the main shooting position. I don't know what we're going to call it, but that
it'll work itself out.
It'll work itself out. So we've got that is completely cut back. So now we can build a deck in there. So we have a canopy above us, and we can build a deck and get vehicles under those trees.
Yeah, that's huge.
The entire hill that is on, the face looking out, that's all been cut. The opposite hill that would be part of the road, that hill has not been cut because I guess the previous owner had run cattle on the property, and the bush hog people were afraid, for some reason, they were going to flip their tractor on it. So they're going to come back, and they're going to bring something else in a couple weeks, and they're going to cut all that back. The 360 range is been cut back greatly. We've also we've preliminarily put in a trail from the 360 range, which is at the bottom of a valley. I know that listeners have no idea what the hell we're talking about, but the 360 range up a hill to the work area, so we can now get up to the work area two ways. And
awesome.
In reconning the far back corner, we did discover a huge valley face, which is going to come in very, very handy for a 1,000-yard bullet trap.
Oh yeah,
and that's going to save us.
Oh, that's going to save us thousands of dollars in bulldozers.
Oh, probably like 10,000. I mean, it's going to save us probably $8,000 just to, because to put in a giant mound back there to eat bullets. But it looks like Mother Nature did it for us. And we have a topo. The topo of the property isn't, it's not the greatest topo. I don't know where. I mean, I guess it's a USGS topo, but it's just not. It's just you're looking at it, there's plus or minus 8 feet. You're dealing with with the lines, and so the trees are still up, so we can't really get a drone over it to look. So you have to go back in there. And we just got a trail cut, but we have a trail cut from the primitives area straight back to the opposite corner that looks down on this giant valley. So yeah. So I am worried. I tell you what. I mean, you go back there on your 4-wheeler. You need to stay at the top. I don't know if you'd get up that hill in your 4-wheeler.
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah.
Well, if it was dry, I probably could. But if it was wet, my 4-wheeler's not 4-wheel drive, so.
Well, you know what? You're bringing up a good point, because when we start cutting, we'll have to cut a fair amount of that canopy off. Because the bullets, depending on what kind of caliber bullet you're shooting, like a 308 at 1,000 yards. A lot of people don't understand this. A 308 bullet at 1,000 yards is coming down at it's coming down at this huge steep angle. So we're going to be cutting back that whole face, which means sunlight will be hitting it, and which means it'll probably stay dry.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Time will tell.
Yeah.
Time will tell.
And also on good news is with the heavy rains that we've had, I expected some of those areas to be a bloody mess. And dude, that property drains so well. I almost can't believe it. A part of me's like, man, it must not have rained here, but it did, and the property drains incredibly well. And even as far as I can tell, the 360 range doesn't even flood.
Well, that's actually really good. My main concern is the main road that goes from the entrance to the property. We'll just call it the hayfield for now, because whatever.
We don't know what to call it yet.
But the road that goes down to the, it goes down through the valley and up to the working area, and then which ultimately goes back to the primitive area. That road itself, we discussed the angle of it and how we may need some work there. What I'm worried about is in the fall and in the spring when it's really wet, will that drain enough to where we can get back there without actually having to go back there and have either some dozer or some bobcat work to cut a better road in there? I mean, four-wheelers will be fine, of course, but I want to be able to get the Suburban back there. You want to be able to get your truck back there, and I don't want to be, sliding off that hillside.
Well, I will tell you this. So that main road, it comes down from the I'm going to speak in descriptive so the listener can understand. The main road comes down basically from the briar patch, crosses the washout, goes up a hill, and then starts to come down, and then you can turn left to go to the 360 range and goes up another hill.
Yes.
And then does it go up, and then it goes down up another hill. But anyway, that first or second hill, gets a little cattywampus for vehicles up there, because it's not a flat hill, because you're kind of at an angle.
Yeah, you're at like a 45-degree angle.
It's not 45 goddamn degrees. It is not 45. It's probably about a 12 or 15-degree angle.
You're crazy,
dude. I was on it yesterday. It's it's about a 15-degree angle, and so.
Well, I tell you what, when it's muddy and you're sliding off of it, you're going to feel it's like a 45-degree angle.
Well, here's the thing. I got over that one on the truck because I was out there when I was testing it when it was really raining. Was able to make it through the washout, make it over that. It wasn't that big of a deal. But the final hill, they go up the crest, the work area in the middle, the big field in the middle. I had a little bit of trouble, even my 4-wheel drive, getting up there.
Well, that's actually kind of weird because that hill is steep, yes, but it's not really on an angle. That's pretty flat.
It's steep enough, and what it is it's been rutted out from like the previous farmer and stuff running on it. That
tractors.
For the way for me to get up it is I had to get off the road onto into the scrub and climb up the scrub. So here's the thing: your Suburban never would have. I mean, I almost didn't get up it, and your Suburban and that would never have gotten to the middle of the property. So we may have to. Here's my thing. If I bring in a bulldozer and we level that road, what that's going to do is that's going to create a wall, to the right, and and here's the thing: if we don't retain that,
you know what?
It's going to end up every time it rains heavy, it's going to collapse.
Not necessarily. It would if we did it, but if you get a guy that actually knows what they're doing on a bulldozer, can grade it properly, you get a guy that knows how to run a bulldozer, they can make it right. They know what they're doing, but we may have to gravel that road.
I anticipate gravel. I anticipate gravel there. I do.
But look, for now, that's not an issue. That'll come.
I got to work out, as far as like maintenance on the property, how much we're going to have it cut. And, I was like, well, gravel, and then and we'll see. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll have to see how they feel about, running their bush hogs over the gravel. And it shouldn't be that big of a deal, but,
that won't be that big of a deal. But, but like I said, a lot of these issues we're talking about right now will resolve themselves naturally over time.
Yeah. So, but the big news is the huge valley in the back, because that is, oh my God. I mean, that is I mean, that thing is huge.
Man, I'll tell you what, to have a natural bullet catcher that is more than we could have hoped for, because back when we were looking at the property before the closing and that, we're looking at topos. We kind of, walked it, and that, but, we never really got a true feel.
We couldn't probably get to 80% of the property.
Oh, yeah. Maybe 90% of the property, really. Maybe. We knew it was a good piece of property, but having a stroke of luck like this, having nature supplying us with a huge backstop that's just icing on the cake.
It is.
That's beautiful. Yeah. I love that.
And that keeps the rest of it, because wherever you have to put in a huge mound or build up a backstop, is you're either going to have to bring dirt in, you're going to have to take the dirt from somewhere else. And what that's going to do is it's going to make that entire zone kind of like a giant bloody, muddy mess, which is going to hurt. And if you have to transverse that all the time. So, the fear was, okay, I can get a 1,000-yard shot on this property, but for whatever reason, we end up having to put a huge giant mound at 800 yards, and it kind of destroys everything around it. So now, you've got an 800-yard shot instead of a 1,000-yard shot, and realistically, once you get closer than 600 yards to it, depending on the weather, you're in like, basically like the Martian version of like Tough Mudder. And it's, and it's just like, so, it's a really good development. It's hard to describe to the listener on the podcast, but I tell you what, I got back there on a four-wheel. I looked down the hill. I was like, holy cow. Dude, I don't know how far this thing goes down, but it looks to me like, this is not an exaggeration. Look, things always look farther than they are, especially when you're dealing with angles and stuff. To me,
yeah,
I would say it's more than 100 feet. So it might, I would say it might even be 200 feet, but to me, it's realistically probably about 100 feet. But it goes, it's not a straight drop, but it's pretty steep. It is. Let's see here. I'll tell you what, it could be a 45-degree angle. It is steep as hell, maybe 50 degrees, and it goes down, 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 down. If you get sideways on a tractor on a four-wheeler, you're going to be hurt, because you're going to go all the way to the bottom. And brother, you ain't getting up. We're going to have to, if you flip a four-wheeler or a vehicle on this hill, we're going to have to life flight you out.
Huh.
Unless a tree stops you. It
depends on it depends on how many trees we have to take out.
Yeah, where Mitchell's range is, and so like on the other side there's the power lines, and they keep it cut, and so like you go down the big hill. Didn't you flip a four-wheeler over there? Is that the hill you flipped it on?
No, that's not the hill I flipped it on. Actually, you know what? I went up that hill with your four-wheeler at night.
Yeah.
And it was not an issue. I could have never made it up that hill with my four-wheeler. I flipped mine on another hill. It's a different area.
This backstop area is at least as big as that hill.
Really? Well, no, that's great though.
It's big. So, and I actually, like my four-wheeler, I got all the way to the bottom of it until there's some trees that have fallen over. So like some huge trees, I had to get back there with the chainsaw and, cut them up. But, I'm basically I'm pushing through because here's the thing. And see, with the guy we've got bush hogging this and bush hogging, because there's some this is an old campsite. And so there's been trails put on it, but they've kind of been let go. The previous owner wasn't doing it anymore. And so we're reclaiming this property, and we're reclaiming a lot of the trails. Well, he's got this the person we've got bush hogging has this giant-ass tractor with a roof on it, and his bush, independently hydraulicized bush hog that he drags behind it, which is huge and great. But the problem is the overhang in these, he calls them monkey vines, will rip the roof off of his tractor. And so we have to go through with four-wheelers and cut stuff that's high so he can get his tractor. He comes through and obliterates everything. So, we basically are like the vanguard guys with the, with the four-wheelers, and then like the big battleship comes through. And I'll tell you what, it's impressive as hell watching. I mean, just turn, because I can barely see like, oh, I think there kind of maybe one time was a trail here. And then it looks like King Kong came through with a giant trowel and just, it's awesome. It's like, damn, So I haven't had a lot of experience with the big bush hogs because, when I was a kid and we were working on the farms, I mean, you didn't have to bush hog anything because everything was already cut back.
Yeah.
So, I just had never been really around I've never been around a giant bush hog before. And actually like been feet from it and been telling it like where to go. Go here.
Yeah.
It's just been an experience.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're going to like it. So, there's a tree in front of the briar patch that is an impediment to some of the long range shooting.
I know the tree you're talking about.
I don't want to drop that tree, so it's like a white tree. What do you call those? Like the Indian call them ghost trees or something. But
I believe it's a white birch.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like Paul Bunyan. I have no idea. So
yeah, whatever.
It's
not important.
You could have called it a riboflavin tree, and I'd have been like, okay, great, okay,
yeah, oh, cool, yeah.
Well, I've heard of those trees, because everyone knows everything on the internet. So, I have a tool like a branch cutter. I have an old one that we had over here at the armory that we had used. And this thing, it's dead. So, I'm going to end up having to get one of the new ones, that we're going to use. And so in a couple of days, I'll have the new tool. It's basically, think of it, if people are home listening, think of it like a chainsaw on the end of a giant pole. So, because I don't want to bring a cherry picker back there and I don't want to drop there's no reason to drop the tree.
No, I mean, look, the thing is, I don't want to drop any trees if we don't have to. I mean, if we have to, we have to. And I don't mind dropping trees. I just don't want to drop a tree if it's not necessary because I like to have trees.
I do too. And so, we're going to be dropping enough trees back in the forest. And here's the thing, to the listener at home, what they probably don't understand is how can I put this visually? So we have a shooting position. From where I'm discussing, we have a hay field. You come into a shooting position. The shooting position is like a canopied tree area. So we've cleared out underneath that so we can operate from there. We can stage under there. We can stay out of the sun if we need to, do what we want to do. And then right in front of that, down and up, is a cut valley. There's no trees in it except for one big-ass birch tree, I guess you called it, that's like sitting right in front of the shooting position. And so I don't want to cut that. I don't want to chop it. I just want to cut it back up vertically so we can, because what I'm going to do is we're going to set up I'm going to call it, the short range. We're going to set up steel targets on the valley, on the hill in front of us, that valley down and valley up and along the road that we were just discussing, maybe having to level out. And those will be like short range steel targets that we can get to very easily, 50 yard, 100 yard, 150, 125, a 225, a 3, maybe 300 yards, and put those around there. But what I've thought about doing is, we heard a rumor from the seller that there were sinkholes on the property. This is just getting better and better, isn't it?
But sinkholes are normal in that part of Indiana.
Yeah, so we found them because we had it all cut back. So what I'm going to do is, we'll use whatever. Here's the thing: I have to mark the sinkholes. You know what I mean? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just use the sinkhole. I'm just going to set up a permanent steel target I know one hole is a sinkhole for sure, and it's not a major sinkhole. All it is drainage that hasn't gone down the hill; it's gone into the hill and to the washout creek, and it's caused a little bit of a collapse. Which to us, it's no big deal. It's not like it's a 40-foot sinkhole; it's maybe about a foot wide, and it drops down maybe 10 inches. But if you hit that with a tractor sideways, it'll roll you, or a four-wheeler. Sure. So we need to mark it. Well, I'll just go ahead and probably affix a permanent 4x4 post, maybe in front of it or behind it, and leave a steel target on it. And so if I'm going to have to mark it, I'll just put a target near it. And if one day, if we have a big rain, I come out there and the steel target's gone, I know it went down the goddamn sinkhole. So.
Yeah, no, but the thing is, you sink a 4x4 in there, throw a steel target on it, let the spall go down into the hole. It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. So, and actually, we can even use that 4x4 and a heavy plate on it to even monitor the sinkhole. Because it'll be, from a quarter mile away, you can be like, hey, that target's crooked. Something's going on over there. You know what I mean? You don't have to walk right up to it.
Yeah, those sinkholes don't move that much.
No, it's not like Florida.
Over on the property that Mitchell Range is on, there's quite a few. As a matter of fact, my deer stand that we moved.
Yeah.
There's actually, you probably didn't even realize it, but when you drive the truck down through that little dip, where you got to thread those two trees that are real close together.
Yeah.
Just to the right of those two trees.
Yeah, I got 3 inches of clearance with my mirrors out to get my truck through there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to the right of those trees, there's a big sinkhole right there. Yeah, that's not uncommon. That sinkhole's been there. It hasn't changed in years.
A sinkhole in the Midwest isn't like a sinkhole in Florida.
No, not at all.
Yeah, a sinkhole is just basically a creek that is, water is moving. Well, taking a different path.
Well, the thing is, it's all limestone. Underneath the topsoil is limestone, and you get water erosion in limestone, and it goes underground. It's normal. It's not that big of a deal. It's not like you're going to be driving your four-wheeler and all of a sudden it sucks you into the ground.
Yeah.
It's not like that.
So, we'll it's just interesting. It's kind of, look, it's a lot of work right now, so it's really kind of cramping our style with everything else we have to do to keep things kind of running. But it's kind of fun, to kind of go explore and see what's really here and get into stuff. And, maybe we'll find, who's the guy that jumped out of the airplane with all the money years ago?
DB Cooper.
Maybe I'll find DB Cooper. You know what I ought to do? We ought to get like like one of those skeletons, and then go to an Army Navy store and buy an old silk parachute and hang it in the trees back in there, and just call it the DB, and we'll put a steel target by it, and we'll call it the DB Cooper target.
DB Cooper range.
Yeah, the DB Cooper range. So, I had somebody I had mentioned this to, just in passing, because they were like, well, what are you guys going to call this range? And I just jokingly said the UDL range, and they're like, what's that? And I said, undisclosed location. Well, here's the thing. That apparently stuck. Because they had asked me about UDL. I'm like, what's UDL? And they're like, that's the name of your range. I'm like, oh, okay. I have no fucking idea what we're going to call this goddamn thing.
You know what? And that'll work itself out, too.
Mitchell's range is named after a bunch of dead kids in a pioneer cemetery that we found.
Yeah, Mitchell's range is to the right of the actual range is a pioneer cemetery, and the Mitchell family is buried there. So, of course, it just makes sense to call it Mitchell Range because, it's in homage to the dead people.
Yeah. So, you go back there, you shoot, you clean off some of the headstones, and actually, didn't the state wanted to put in a there's a marker there now.
Yeah, it's actually on the state registry.
Yeah.
And when I say it's on the state registry, I don't know really what the hell I'm talking about. I do know that the property owner told us that, and there's like a plaque now. And
he showed me the plaque. I don't know if he put it up, but he showed it to me.
You know, actually, I think if you go to John1911.com, we've got a post where we actually have a picture of the plaque.
You know what we do? That's how I come to know I've seen it.
Yes. But here's the thing. I don't know where you go to find this registry.
Yeah. And I don't know either. So
it is what it is, but it's cool, that, I mean, who doesn't like pioneer cemeteries? That's cool stuff in itself.
I know, but it's kind of creepy, dude. There's a lot of little kids buried there.
Well, but
they died. I mean, I don't know what's worse to say. I hope they died of disease and not Indian attacks. I mean, what the hell? I mean, like, that doesn't sound right.
No, look, childbirth was rough because they didn't have doctors in hospitals, and it was a tough time, and
I mean, like, you could look at the graves and, like, I don't think any of those kids are over 3.
No.
Yeah, I think some of them are just even like under 2 and like even less than a year. It might even be like just a few months. It's rough.
Yeah, no, I mean,
grave after grave after grave, and you're just like, Jesus Christ, did they get wiped out or what?
And look at how many of the women died in childbirth too. Yeah. I mean, it was rough.
Yeah, people come here for the guns, and now we're talking about midwives and pioneer deaths in old cemeteries.
Hey, you know what though? You see that in every old pioneer cemetery you go to. It's not actually unusual. It's kind of creepy in one way, but it is what it is. And according to the documents, there's no cemeteries on the new property. So we don't.
You know what? There's nothing's been disclosed that there's a cemetery, and the truth is, I don't see where there would be one. However, dude, we'll never know what the hell we'll find back there.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's a pretty remote piece of property.
Well, look over where Mitchell's Range is. The property that Mitchell's Range is on, there's the Mitchell Cemetery, and they actually have headstones, but there's actually a second cemetery on that property.
I heard that.
And you've actually been by it.
Isn't it over by is it over where the old foundation of the old cabin is?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, if you're over on that side of the farm where the old foundation is, and you go down the road that goes all the way down to the hill bottoms where they have the Indian Mound there by the creek.
Yeah.
It's on that hillside. But here's the problem. There's no regular headstones. They used actually creek rock stones. And if you're just walking by there, you have no clue that that's a cemetery.
Yeah.
It's bizarre, but it is because the
here's the thing, but you mentioned something. I hadn't even thought about the Indian Mound stuff yet. I mean, I haven't even like gone back on the property in my mind's eye and even looked for any Indian Mounds. There probably won't be, but I don't know.
But I guarantee. I mean, it's not like Indians didn't live and roam that area. So,
dude, there's a lot of Indian Mounds on the Mitchell Range property.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of them. And I always thought that's kind of interesting because, there's all these rules, as far as what's, you can't dig into these things, but they're basically kind of like mini, in my like little 12-year-old head, like as, like adventure-seeking 12-year-old, to me, they're like Raiders of the Lost Ark, pyramids. And, inside of every one of those could be gold or something. You know what I mean? You don't know what the hell's in these things. And, you're not allowed to touch them.
Every time I go down there, and I would never desecrate an Indian mound. I know there's a lot of people that would, and if you're that person, cool.
The FBI scooped up a bunch of people. Was it last year or the year before in Indiana for selling? They were selling that stuff. I mean, they came in like a huge raid.
I tell you what, I stole an arrowhead off of I'm not going to name the name of the place. You know of it.
Okay. You did it as a kid, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was in my 20s, but here's what happened. It's a county, or I guess.
I mean, I know what it is. I don't want to name it. I don't want to. I know. Because I'm just going to have to edit this goddamn thing out. So just
no. I'm not going to name the place, okay. But they have Indian Mounds, and it was an old Indian fort. Where basically it was an Indian village. I think.
If you describe it enough, you might as well fucking name it. That's what I'm telling you. No, don't be too specific.
What are the prehistoric Indians? What were they called? I'm not talking about like the Shawnee Indian. I'm talking going back to prehistoric Indians. Well,
technically they're all prehistoric because they were living in the fucking Stone Age in the 1400s.
I know, but I'm talking about like
I don't remember like
1,000, 2,000 years ago.
Or not. What's like? I don't remember what they called them, but like is the mommy? I don't remember. But like there's the giant snake.
Yeah, okay, like the snake, the effigy snake mound, but it's not the effigy. I'm not talking about that area, but it was the same type of Indians that built the effigy mounds and stuff. Well, anyway, so I'm walking across this field, and it's inside the Indian quote unquote fort. They call it a fort, but it was like where the village was. Well, moles, moles in the ground, they pop up these dirt hills. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm walking across this field, and there's several molehills. Well, I kicked a molehill. I just kicked the dirt, and a freaking stone arrowhead flew out of it. And basically, this area is so littered with artifacts because the Indians lived there for, I don't know, who knows how many hundreds of
years, maybe.
This mole basically pushed this arrowhead up, and when I kicked the dirt hill, this arrowhead flew out. Well, I promptly pocketed it, which is probably a felony. I don't know.
It could be, yeah.
But it was like I wasn't digging for it, but it was just kind of like it popped to the surface due to, well, I don't know, nature. The mole did it. Mm-hmm. It's the mole's fault.
It's
but what I'm saying is I don't know how it is out west of the Mississippi, but in the Midwest, with all the Indian, especially in our area, which the Indian traffic was so heavy.
Oh God.
Indian artifacts. Hell, when they built the casino parking lot, there's the casino down on the river, and then there's the main casino building, and then there was the parking lot where everyone parked. That parking lot was put on hold for almost 2 years because when they were excavating to build the parking lot, they found freaking Indian artifacts, and they had to have the archaeologists come in and basically do their archaeology thing and sieve all the artifacts they could out of that area before they could just put asphalt over it. But I mean, it's so common. It would be nothing for a guy to turn a cornfield here for plantings, and you'd find tons of Indian arrowheads in the fresh dirt. Because for thousands of years, if Indians are running around shooting arrows at each other in game, there's arrowheads everywhere. Well, my father-in-law, who's dead now, literally in his garage had, I don't know, 2 or 3 5-gallon buckets, 5-gallon buckets, just plastic buckets filled with Indian arrowheads that on his farm over the years, he just picked up. Yeah. He'd till the soil, right? He'd just be walking along. Oh, there's an arrowhead. He'd pick it up. And just over the years, he collected these. He had like 2 or 3 5-gallon buckets just filled with Indian arrowheads. And I don't know who got those when he died. Some of those are worth big money, I hear. People like put them in displays. Here's the thing. The farm that I grew up on as a kid, our family farm, this property has been in the family since
at least the 1700s.
Yeah.
So the problem is it's been farmed so much over the years that I didn't try that hard, but I never found Indian arrowheads like you guys did here. Because, that area had been farmed for at least 200 years before this area that it has.
Yeah.
Well,
you know what's interesting? This is a little personal history. It would be my great grandmother. It was my mother's grandmother. My mother came
your mother's grandmother would be your mother's grandmother
would be my great grandmother.
No, your mother's mom would be your
grandmother.
Oh, okay. Your mother's okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so it was
I'm thinking about I'm thinking a generation below you.
So it would be my great grandmother. Now, she died when my mom was, I want to think maybe 10 or 12 years old. And when she died, they don't really know what her age is, but they figured she was probably 102, 104 years old. She used to tell my mom stories about feeding the soldiers coming home from the war, i.e. Civil War.
Yeah.
Now, when my mom tells me stories, and my cousin has this, and I'm like willing to kill him for this, but he has her pipe. And my mom was telling me a story how when she was a little girl that they would be like, walking along, and my great grandmother smoked a pipe. And what they would do is they'd be down by the creek, and my mom's job was to find hollow reeds that she could use as a stem for her pipe. Dude, her pipe is the bowl of a prehistoric Indian pipe that she found.
Yeah. I remember I heard about this.
Dude, I mean,
this pipe could be 1,000 years old.
Oh, this pipe could be 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years old. And she smoked it regularly. And all it is a clay bowl that the Indians made, and then they would use reeds as a stem. But since you're using reeds as a stem, the reeds wear out as you chomp on it. Mm-hmm. So, so it'd be like, oh, I need a new stem. Go find me a new stem. And Mom would go out there and find a stem, and you'd be, oh, this fits, this works. Okay, boom, she's got a new stem for her pipe.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, because the Indians were kind of, prehistoric dirt billies. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but it's true.
It's true.
The thing is, there's stuff that is like I made a reference to the big snake thing. Yes. There's this giant, there's these, I don't know a whole lot about Indian, like in the subject of Indians, like this real stuff, but there's Indian mounds. Well, there's this mound that these Indians made that if you walk up on it, you're like, oh, this is kind of an odd looking pile of dirt here. But if you get up in the sky and you look down at it, it's a giant snake. Like, I don't know how long this thing is. It could be 400 yards.
Oh, man, this thing is huge. I've been there several times, and they actually have a big, huge tower you can climb up into that overlooks it. And you know what it boils down to is it's aliens.
Well, it's kind of like the Nazca lines down there in South America. It's a thing that's so big you really can't see what it is unless you're flying in the sky. And I can't remember, since you've been there, you tell me, this mound is so old that the Indians that were here when, quote, Columbus discovered America, the Indians are like, yeah, we have no idea. It's been here forever.
No. When Columbus discovered America.
I mean, is this mound like 10,000 years old or 4,000?
Oh, yeah. No,
is it 4 or 10?
I mean, this mound is as old as the pyramids in Egypt.
The pyramids are 4. Aren't they 4,000?
They're 4 or 5,000.
Yeah.
And if we're wrong, make a comment.
Yeah, leave a comment below.
But no, I mean, the Indians that were around when the white man was, I don't know, you could call it settling, you could call it raping or stealing, whatever you want to call it. When the Europeans were coming to America, these mounds were already ancient, and the Indians that were living there had no freaking clue because the people that built them were long gone.
Yeah.
And no one knows. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of theories as to why it was built, but no one really knows. And if you watch Ancient Aliens on the History Channel, they'll tell you it was aliens.
Well, if I go back into the property and I start looking for Indian mounds and I come out and, like, I have my hair sticking straight up like that dude, you know, who says, I'm not saying it's aliens, it's aliens.
Okay. First off, if you go into the property and you come out and your hair grows like 8 fucking inches to look like this guy's hair, dude, I'm like never talking to you ever
well,
again.
We're billionaires because if that's true, we're billionaires because I just cured baldness.
Okay. We don't have to do any more podcasts.
Go ahead, take a drink while you're choking to death. And I want to change the subject here. So,
wow, that was huge.
Yeah, well, you know, the thing is, I'm like, I didn't go through this property, and I didn't even think about Indian mounds. So I'm going to have to make sure. I'm going to have to when we're looking. Well, I can't. Well, here's the thing: if we put a target on top of, oh, look, here's a great hill to put a steel target on it, and if somebody figures out it's an Indian mound, dude, we are in major fucking trouble.
Look, so, I'm not worried about putting a post up there with a target on top of an Indian mound. I just don't want to run a freaking bulldozer through.
Yeah, I know. We won't do that, but I hadn't even, but you know what's kind of surprising? Because again, I don't know how this works, and we got to get off this, but I got more stuff to talk about. But on the Mitchell Range property where the Indian mounds are, yes. What surprises me is the Indian mounds are in low-lying areas down by creeks. They're not necessarily up high.
Yes.
And there's a lot of low-lying areas on this property. And, dude, I bet there's people, I bet there have been there's areas of this property, the new range, that there hasn't been a human on it in decades.
Yeah, that doesn't shock me in the least bit.
Because it's just hard to get back in there. That's why it's perfect for shooting, because it's a kill zone. So, I mean, I'm going to have to, like, I'm glad actually this came up because it hadn't even occurred to me, like Indian mounds. I just forgot. I forgot that there's fucking Indian mounds out there. I just forgot. And you would think that would have been disclosed, but the truth is, dude, I mean, if this property's obviously been around a long time. But if nobody goes back there and no one knows it's there, and let's say for the past 40 years or 50 years, it wouldn't be disclosed if no one even remembers it's there.
Well, the thing is, you have to remember from a local's point of view, Indian mounds are no big deal. They're everywhere.
All I know is my 12-year-old mind. If I was a 40-year-old guy and I had a family and I had bills and my whole life collapsed and I had no money and they're going to take my house and my kids are going to live on the street, you know, if some guy will go to the goddamn gas station and spend $1 on a scratch-off to hopefully win the lottery, I don't see why some guy wouldn't go out with a shovel and start digging in Indian mounds.
And you know what? I think people would be shocked to realize that more people probably do that than you would think.
Hence the story about the FBI that showed up at that house in Indiana with their huge forensics van, like the new fancy one.
Yeah, but you know, look. Just for the sake of our listeners.
And then we got to get off this. Go ahead.
Just for the sake of our listeners, you will never have to, like, live in the woods under a tarp with your children as long as we have a company trailer, because I will let your kids live in our trailer for free.
Before you dig into an Indian mound and destroy history, we will front you a trailer for a few weeks.
Yes.
And a 5-gallon bucket to shit in until you can get back on your feet.
And you know what? I'll even let you borrow the Yeti cooler so your milk doesn't go bad for 3 or 4 days at a time. Come on.
Because Freeze is a fucking humanitarian.
I am a fucking humanitarian. Look, I'm a charming motherfucker.
Yeah, fucking classy.
I am.
There goes the explicit tag on YouTube. There goes the explicit tag on Libsyn. Oh, hey. iTunes. Nope, we're not general audience approved now.
Hey, why should we change our format now?
Fuck it. It's because you know why? Because I tried. Dude, I made a video, and I cursed in a video, and on YouTube, I guess you can see more people if you bleep out your cursing. So I tried to bleep it out, and I'm not any good at it. Dude, I swear it's like, what the fuck? Beep. It's like, and I'm like, whatever. I don't give a shit. I'm not doing this again. So
basically, when you're watching late night TV and they bleep out cuss words, the guys who control the bleep button are freaking magicians.
This man's a wizard. So speaking of which, I posted, I gotta get off this. We gotta get off the fucking Indians.
Okay.
I posted, the truck gun, or the HK91 copy, the PTR 91. That's a 308 truck gun. Yes. I put this gun together, and I had this old red dot. And here's the thing: on the blog page, I think I may have said it was 15 years old. Dude, this red dot could be 20. I mean,
dude, when you put that red dot on the PTR, I laughed at it.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it was here, and it was free, and it turned on. I was like, okay, hey, what the fuck?
You know what? I laughed at it, but, it was and wheelhouse. It was here, it was free, and it worked.
And, it's not great. It's not an aim point. I mean, I've got the real red dots on the real guns, but you know what? I was like, whatever. When it dies, I'll break down and get something. So it finally died. So I posted a video on YouTube. I haven't put it on John1911 or Facebook yet, so I don't know if you've seen it. But basically, I'm taking that red dot, what's dead, and I'm using the scope body as a giant ghost ring, and I'm shooting on an IDPA target just to basically, it's like, hey, could you really use this as a ghost ring? And look, I understand you can take a red dot, turn the dot off, and see if you can still hit stuff, but actually to have one break and actually use it and see what happens, I was like, oh, let's see what happens. And I hit this target. Look, the headshots were nothing to write home about. Like, one of the headshots went into the shoulder, but I was able to make headshots at, I don't know, I mean, that's probably 35 yards.
Well, look, the bottom line is, it's an important lesson because, you've got a red dot on Rifle X, whatever that is, whether it's an AR, an AK, a PTR, I don't know, a fucking Mossberg shotgun. Doesn't matter what it's on. But you pull it out, you go to flick it on, and oh fuck, the red dot's dead. Well, that doesn't mean you're crippled. It means look through it, use it as a big ghost ring. You might not be shooting clover leaves, but who the fuck cares? If the bad guy's coming your way, you can still drill the dude.
To get you through the problem until you need to do what you need to do.
Exactly. The point is, you don't have to be paralyzed because the little red dot doesn't light up. So what? Still use it and push through it.
Have you seen the video?
No, I haven't.
Okay, it's on YouTube. So here's why I'm mentioning this. So, because, we're talking about, like, bleeping stuff out. Yeah. So I put the video up on YouTube, and I'll put it on Facebook today, I guess.
Sure, why not?
How do I say this? I've got YouTube gives me statistics, like, number of viewers, number of likes, number of whatever, private messages, all these analytics. Yeah. And I put this video up last night, and it's already got, according to my app, it's got, I don't know, 3 comments on it.
Oh, that's actually pretty good.
Well, here's the thing. I went to the video and I'm like, oh, we must have some comments. So I went there and looked, and the only comment is I usually put the first comment in. So there's only my comment, and I'm going back and forth, and I'm like, well, this app must not be working. And then it's this and this, and I'm going back and forth, and I'm like, well, let me go out of this app and let me go to the regular YouTube app, because there's a separate app for like creators. So I go to the regular YouTube app, and I'm like, I don't see any other comments. Then I'm like, oh fuck, it's people that I shadow banned.
No way.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if people are aware of this, and I wish Facebook had this. Look, if you don't like what we're doing, that's fine. I'm not going to ban you for it. If you want to be critical of what we're doing and maybe have a suggestion, that's fine. I'm not going to ban you for that. But if you come in and you attack us personally, or you attack other commenters, like you just in there basically just throwing mud around or being a big piece of shit, you end up getting banned. Well, YouTube, I don't think a lot of people realize this. YouTube has two ways to ban people. You can, quote, ban them, and then, they try to comment and won't let you comment. But then YouTube has this thing called shadow banning. And what it does is it's a way to ban somebody, and yet it keeps them from going out and, making, all these accounts and keep coming back, and you have to keep banning all this new stuff because they get to write all the comments they can just vomit and vomit and vomit and vomit whatever they want to say, and the only person that sees it is them.
Yes.
And it's like, if a tree falls in the woods, does it make a sound?
Well, it does to them because they don't know there's no one else in the woods.
Yeah, and it's just like holy shit. Because we don't have a lot of activity. Look, here's a clue. Here's a special podcast bonus. If you are listening to this podcast, understand something. If you leave a comment on a YouTube video, I see it. I will respond to it. I will either respond to the comment or I will like it. I will see it to let you know that I've seen it. If you write a comment, unless there's some, I occasionally might miss something, but 99% of the time I will respond to everything. But if you're on YouTube and you're vomiting fuck you, Marky, and you suck, and you got a little dick, and real men fucking go to the gym, carry a heavier gun, whatever bullshit you want to tell me.
Wear a bra.
Yeah, whatever. And you don't get any response from anybody, even me, guess what? You're probably shadow banned.
That means you're shadow banned and no one is seeing your shit.
Oh, shadow, I am so surprised that Facebook hasn't picked up on shadow banning.
You think they would.
Because, and you know what shadow banning does? Shadow banning is a way, here's the other side of the argument, because shadow banning just doesn't serve, quote, the creator's interests, keeps you from, especially if, let's just be real, if we were hot chicks with big tits and, we were making gun videos, every fucking comment would just be fucking garbage. Shadow banning enables, some guy basically, if every time some guy was like, hey baby, here's my phone number. Shadow banning, all that does is it lowers the workload for the creator because they don't have to keep coming in. If they identify a person that's going to either have to be addressed, if you ban them, they're just going to keep coming back with new profiles. But shadow banning also serves YouTube/Google's interests because that person is still commenting, that person is still interacting, and that person is still watching commercials.
Yeah.
And so YouTube will literally be like, hey, if you're shadow banned and you keep commenting on videos, YouTube will keep feeding you those videos so you'll keep watching commercials so they can charge people money. Sure. It's this really vicious situation that I think a lot of people haven't figured out yet. It's just, I thought that was dude, we have hardly anything on YouTube. We have, we're nobodies on YouTube. We have 200 followers. Most of the people that watch our videos are not subscribers. We've already got guys that, I assume they're guys, that are shadow banned and they're just shit talking us probably. Or maybe they're not.
But you know what? I look, I don't care. We're building it.
Yeah, I'm not that. Oh, I just thought it was funny.
and we have to do what we have to do. But the bottom line is, you can't come in and shit on us. Look, we never allowed it on our Facebook page. We don't allow it on anything else. I mean, look, you don't have to agree with us. You don't even have to like us. Matter of fact, you can hate our freaking guts, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. Come in and tell me, say, you know what, Freeze, I hate your fucking guts. That's fine. You're not going to get banned. You're not going to get deleted. You're not, that's fine. But if you tell me I suck camel cock, you're gone.
Yes, it's just, and
don't attack me personally. You don't have to agree with me. Disagree with me. But present a valid argument.
Well,
say, you know what? You're wrong because of this.
Well,
and I'm totally cool with that.
I actually kind of have a similar but yet significantly different take on it than you do, because my perspective has completely changed. Okay. I'm not interested in a valid argument.
Okay.
I don't mean that in the sense of like I'm keeping score on somebody or I'm disrespecting somebody, or here's the thing. Shadow banning, I've learned, and just flat out banning people is just simply an economic use of my time. If I don't have to spend 5 seconds of my time looking, moderating your bullshit comments, that's 5 seconds I can spend actually doing something to create something. And I'm not going to get in the comments to argue with people about bullshit. I'm too busy making videos and I'm too busy creating content. Nobody's got time. And it's not like, I'm not like, I'm going to show you, fuck you. It's literally like, it's like walking by an anthill to me. Like, oh, look, there's an ant I'm sure you're an ant walking on a sidewalk. My big giant Nike or my big giant New Balance gym shoe next to you is a big deal to you. But, you're just a little ant of 100 ants I'm walking by today that I don't even notice it. I'm too busy.
Yeah.
It's just the new way of kind of the approach. Because when we started this, was it like a year and a half? We were real proud of it on Facebook. We've never banned anybody. You remember that bullshit?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
God,
yeah.
Jesus,
we used to have these long fucking like threads with these guys, like these communist guys and these socialists and these anti-gunners, and we would have these big long debates. And, and like we would win people over eventually or agree to disagree, but it just, all the time we wasted with that bullshit.
Yeah. That lasted about a year, maybe a year.
And once it got to the point that we had to start banning people, like it started coming faster and faster.
You want to know when we really hit the pinnacle of starting to ban people? Think about this. It's when we found out that Latinos are anti-Semitic.
Oh, Jesus! I forgot about that.
Man,
people have no idea. Nobody has any idea what the fuck you're talking about right now.
No, they don't. But here's the thing. Apparently,
we had posted some kind of content that had something to do with Jews or Israel, or I don't even remember what it was. Do you remember?
I don't remember what the original post was. I really don't. But it had to do with, I don't know, Jews or Israel or whatever. And man, all of a sudden, the floodgates opened and every Latino out there.
We had all. Let me, because I don't want to put everybody in the same basket. All of a sudden, we had a bunch of bullshit anti-Semitic comments, and all the commenters were named Perez, Gonzalez, Hernandez, and they all lived in Texas and California. Most of them lived in California, and they were all Jew haters, and it was weird.
And it was just like, oh my God, who would have thought that all these Latinos are anti-Semitic? I mean, I truly was shocked because I didn't realize that Latinos are anti-Semitic. And I'm sure, and of course, not every single Latino is, of course.
It's the left is very anti-Semitic, and which is really interesting considering the amount of leftists there are, Jewish leftists, which is this whole like really, Roger could go into that. So,
but Yeah, so it was great, but that was the point where we started to really drop the band hammer heavy.
Well, you know what? Look at it like this. This is kind of a good way to go into something else. I'm going to say the left because I'm more of a conservative than I'm a liberal. I'm a fiscal conservative, and I'm a libertarian. Leave people. I'm a libertarian that thinks Ron Paul's fucking crazy. So take that for what it's worth. Did you hear about? Do you know who Dana Loesh is?
Yes.
Did you hear what? Did you hear about her latest thing?
Maybe.
Dana Loesh, for those of you that don't know, she's this. Here's the thing: whenever I see Dana Loesh, I always think of Danica Patrick, and they're like, she's this attractive girl. I mean, girl. I get in trouble. I mean, she's a woman. She's an attractive woman. And she's an NRA personality. She's a media personality, and she's very, 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 very pro-gun. I believe she works for the NRA. And the NRA, most of the liberals hate her because, she's this commercially appealing, youngish look. She's not 20 because she's got married with kids, but she's not an old white guy with a FUD hat on
the left hate her because she's a woman and she's hot.
And she's smart.
She's pro-gun.
And she's smart. And they hate, and here's the thing, it's been getting worse and worse and worse and worse. She's been getting death threats. Her kids have been getting death threats. But what's been happening is, there's all this Harvey Weinstein going on, and all these people are coming out in Hollywood talking about like how they were sexually harassed. Well, Dana Loesh has come out and admitted that she gets threatened with rape and killing, and she's actually recently, they're moving out of their home for security reasons, because they're having so many threats, and people, if and it's just, whistling past the graveyard on this. It's these Antifa fucking crazy. It's always these crazy leftists that end up committing violence. Historically, it's always been that way. Just like the Nazis, because they're leftists too, hippies. Don't read a history book. But you know what? Hey, do you know how I know that hunting season's coming?
How's that?
It's not from the change of the seasons. It's not from getting emails from the DNR about new regulations for this year's hunting season. It's Arby's has released their venison and elk burgers again.
Hey, you know what? I heard about that, and I will not try their venison and elk burger.
Oh, you don't want a commercially processed venison burger?
No, I don't.
Kind of defeats the purpose.
Okay, but let me tell you, since we're talking about hunting, let me tell you, my primary ground blind in the state of Ohio is no longer huntable. Thanks to my dad.
You told me, you know what? You told me this, but I didn't understand why it wasn't huntable.
Oh my God. Okay. So I have a ground blind. Behind my dad's property. Well, it's his property, but there was an old hayfield. And, 50 years ago it was a hayfield, but it hasn't been cut for hay in probably 25 years. And nature being what it is, it's reclaiming it. And it's now a kind of a wooded lot. But when I put this ground blind up, and this ground blind has grown over the years, it started out as a milk crate underneath a freaking tree, and then I put some woven wire fence up. I put some pallets up. I put some, some old tree branches, and it's just kind of grown into a pretty secluded, nice little ground blind, just over the years. And I've harvested quite a few deer out of this area. Well, I made the mistake, I guess 2 years ago, maybe 3. of buying my dad a trail cam. So opposite the ground blind, probably if you're sitting in the ground blind, I'm going to say maybe 30 yards away, there's a tree, and he hung this trail cam on this tree, and it looks, if you look at pictures of the trail from the trail cam, you can see the ground blind. But he's like, oh, you know what? I'm going to hang it there and take a look at the coyotes and the deer and, and all the other things that get caught on the trail cam. But then he thought, well, you know what? To bring the deer in, he's like, I'm going to start feeding them. So,
okay.
So for the past 2 years, he goes out there and he puts corn down in front of this trail cam and the deer come. So so last week, he had a medical procedure, nothing serious, but he's like, I can't really get on the four-wheeler. He's like, do me a favor. He's like, I need to feed deer today, because he does this daily. So he's like, jump on my four-wheeler, and he's like, take this corn out there, and he's like, go put it down, where I put it. And I'm like, okay, no big deal. So I drive up there and I get off the four-wheeler, and as I'm putting the corn down, I notice there's a doe and two of her babies, which are little button bucks, standing there, and they're waiting. They're 15 yards away from me, waiting for me to put the corn down. So God. I put the corn down and I go back, and I'm telling him, it's like, well, he's like, oh yeah. He's like, as soon as they hear the engine of the four-wheeler, they come up to get the corn. And I'm like, dude, I said, I can't kill these fucking deer now because they're pets. You've turned them into fucking pets. And I don't even have to use a ground blind. All I got to do is take my bow, drive up there with my four-wheeler, and as soon as I hear the engine, shoot them. It's like, I can't do that. I mean, maybe
that's a nice ground blind, too. It's like a giant kid sport.
Dude, man, it is. This is a ground blind that has just over the years has been built up, you add a little bit of structure to it every year, and it's a really nice freaking ground blind that is totally freaking destroyed now because all the deer that come to it are more or less freaking pets.
So wait a minute, you're not going to be like Teddy Roosevelt going on the big hunt, and no. They're like, okay, here's a bear, we tied it to a tree, you can shoot it, great white hunter.
No. I look, I mean, there's a reason it's called hunting and not killing. You know
what? Those will be your emergency deer. Those will be your EMP deer. If North Korea sets off an EMP and none of the food shows up at Kroger, you can go out there with your four-wheeler and call the deer in and whack them to get you through the post-apocalypse food shortage.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, I have other areas to hunt and other deer I can kill. But it's like, oh man, it's like, dude, seriously, you've turned all the freaking deer into this area into basically pets. And
did I send you the picture of the trail cam of the deer that Officer M was trying to hunt in that?
Yes, yeah. I saw those. Yeah, that's a monster
deer.
Yeah,
not that far from the armory.
Man, that's impressive. I hope Officer M is able to harvest that.
He already got his buck for the year, so no.
Oh, really?
He got a decent buck, but it wasn't that one.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And that buck was old, too. It looked like, I mean, it may not even be around next year.
You know what? That
wasn't a young buck on steroids. That was an old buck that earned it the hard way.
Okay, when you post this podcast, put a picture of this buck in the comment section so they can see what we're talking about.
But I'll do that.
Because I'm telling you what, this is a respectable old buck. Too bad for Officer M for already harvesting a buck, but basically he should have held out.
Yeah. Hey, update. I posted about the Bren. We got the Bren. It's over here. I sent you some pictures of it. Actually, we're debating whether we were going to bring it back to life, but again, you haven't really looked at it because you're our resident gunsmith. It may not be economically feasible to bring it back to life. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because the other item that we have coming in from the Ukraine, I got an alert. It's here. It went through customs. So it made it through customs. But
and you're not arrested yet.
I'm not arrested yet. But the post office wants me to pick it up in person. So
oh shit! So there might be a couple fine young gentlemen in blue suits waiting for you.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm hoping that the item that we ordered. Let me get this on the podcast to make it official. The agreement was what I ordered from the Ukraine is supposed to be demilitarized and, not loaded. So hopefully that's what shows up.
I'm assuming that you have to pick it up because the box was way too big to fit into our PO box.
I'm not sure. Well, here's the thing. If the podcast doesn't go live, that's a clue that I may be at the lockup.
That I need to bail you out.
Yeah. So,
Actually, there may not be bail set.
No. So, yeah, we'll do a video. We'll do a video on it and kind of how creepy this whole deal has gotten to be a little creepy because it's coming out of Ukraine, but then the money's going to another country, and
I used to deal with this guy in St. Petersburg.
And he was that long ago. If it's St. Petersburg,
well, this was back in the 90s. He was Russian mafia, and I used to get a lot of really good military surplus shit from this guy, and he was out of St. Petersburg, and I would send the money to this Russian dude in New Jersey. And once the Russian dude in New Jersey got the funds, the guy in St. Petersburg would ship the item.
That sounds just like this. Like this.
It was some shady shit. But, I got some good stuff from the dude.
Yeah. Yeah. So, because,
all legal, mind you. Well,
all legal.
Okay. Let me tell you something. When I say all legal, it was legal on my end. How he got it, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But what I received was legal.
Yeah. Reminds me of the Soviet maps that the Russians used to do. Like the Russians used to have all these because they're just like the U.S. military. They go around and they map everything because you never know if they're going to have to fight the Americans there. So they have all these maps of all these crazy places that aren't normally available, and so you end up getting these Russian maps because they're real popular. Like, if you're digging an oil rig in the middle of the fucking Congo and you need a topo or whatever this area, the only real accurate map that's even available is a Soviet era map, maybe done sometime between 1930 and say like 1990. But here's the problem. While they totally perfectly fine to have if you live in Congo or you live in the U.S., these are still controlled items in Russia, and they're sensitive, do not publish materials. And the Russians catch you with one, they may not be happy about it. Here in the U.S., it's no big deal. You got a map. Well, in Russia, it'd be like having a top secret document from the Pentagon if you lived in Moscow. The Russians don't fucking care, but if the Pentagon catches you with it, they may have something to say about it. So anyway, there are all kinds of crazy shit. We're gonna wrap this one up, but I'm gonna go ahead and I am going to. I'm going to give you a sad commentary on the decline and fall of the American empire.
Okay.
I have definitive proof that we are no longer the top dog, the greatest planet on Earth. We're
the
no
greatest
longer
planet.
I mean,
the
greatest country on earth. We're no longer the world's preeminent superpower. Okay. And I'm not using military power. I'm not using economic power. I'm not using GDP. I'm not using debt. I'm not using manufacturing. I'm not using the size of a military. I'm not talking about weapons. I'm not talking about nuclear. I'm not talking about biological, chemical.
Okay.
Google drones will drop burritos into people's yards in Australia. In Australia, you can order a burrito and it will show up by a drone before it comes here in the U.S. I'm saying.
Fuck me, really,
dude!
I want a fucking burrito dropped on my back deck from a drone. What the fuck? That is the most awesome thing I've ever heard of. A fucking burrito. You make a phone call, and a burrito falls on your fucking deck. Jesus Christ, that's amazing.
I mean, with high-speed internet and I don't know, www.bigporn.com and then flying burritos, dudes aren't going to leave their house.
Dude, I thought Pizza Hut's fucking app was the bomb motherfucking diggity. Dude, seriously, you go to Pizza Hut's app, you order whatever you want to eat. They, you pay for it online. They text you when the delivery driver leaves. They text you right before they get to the house. Next thing you know, your doorbell rings and you get your pizza. Well, I thought that was, dude,
but you know what? But you know what? If you're a decent person and you're using the Pizza Hut app, you at least have to try to not be naked when you answer the door. Because, you still have to deal with a driver. A drone that will drop a burrito on your deck. Dude, you don't even have to get dressed.
Oh, trust me. My Pizza Hut delivery driver doesn't mind me coming to the door naked.
Okay. All right. Well, this wraps up episode 76 of the John1911 Podcast. If you like this podcast, think about leaving us some feedback on iTunes or on iHeartRadio if they have that feature. I don't even honestly know. If you'd like to see some references to Officer M's deer pics or leave a comment, you can go to John1911.com. That's JOHN1911.com and visit us there, and we'll read everything and respond to it. Just remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun. Everybody, have a good day.
See you later.